In today's video, we're going to see how I created this particular animation, which is a domino effect using physics simulation in Blender. You can change this up to create whatever type of dominoes you want, and it can be created fairly easily. So stay tuned. If you want a step-by-step tutorial on how you can do this yourself, comment that down below and I'll create a step-by-step tutorial. This video is sped up to 5 times the original speed, approximately 5 times that is. But every single mistake or when I tried figuring anything out has all been kept so that you realize that when 3D artists are actually using Blender, we don't quite know everything right from the start. We have to experiment ourselves and find out what works, what doesn't, make a few changes here and there to figure it out before we can actually make tutorials or teach. Most tutorials on YouTube don't explain that there is so much of trial and error that goes in before creating the tutorial, which sometimes discourages newer users from creating on Blender, thinking that they're not smart enough to do it. However, this should hopefully change that perspective once you watch it. Right now, I finished modeling what's going to be my basic domino, and I've set up 10 of them just by duplicating them. And I've set them to rigid bodies, along with a giant floor, which is also a passive rigid body. Along with that, I created a ramp and a ball so that we can start off the domino effect without having to animate anything and have everything based solely off of physics simulations. Another thing that I had to keep doing was find out where I could find the cache limit because I forgot where it was, but I knew that it was there somewhere in the settings, and I just had to find the cache limit to prevent it from stopping at 250 frames. I found that on much later in the video. For the materials, I knew that I could either go with something that's just shiny, metallic, and have some reflections going on to make it look nice. However, I also thought that since the entire theme of the last few videos of mine has been sci-fi, I'd like to make it some sort of sci-fi looking animation. So in order to do that, I wanted some type of emission to go on. And I knew that if I had the entire domino to be emissive, it would have been a complete overkill. So I wanted just the sides of the animation to be lit up. But again, if the entire side was just lit, wouldn't be that nice. So it had to have some sort of texture. So I settled with a wave texture to go around the edges of the domino. While I did that, the faces had to have some sort of color to it as well, but no color was working out nicely, so I decided to keep it as the default white, which turns out to be a grayish color because it is metallic, and just leave it as that with a low roughness. But then later on, I did want to change it to glass. The problem with changing it to glass, we'll see a bit later. For the ball, I just set up my usual Voronoi texture and put that as an emissive texture so that it has some sort of character to the ball and you can actually see it roll when it's actually going down. Because if it was shaded to be a single color, you wouldn't even be able to tell that it's actually rolling. And I guess that texture added a little bit more life to the animation as the ball rolled down. Beyond that, being emissive textures, I didn't want the actual world to have too much of lighting in the scene. I wanted it to completely be lit using just the emissive textures, but that would work only on cycles. It doesn't work in Eevee as of now. So I had to add in another light source either way. So I just made sure that the power was not too high and worked out. Then I decided to change the dominoes to some sort of glass effect. And the issue that we faced over here was I switched on all the settings, but I forgot to switch on screen space refractions for the actual material itself in the material settings, which is why the glass just wasn't becoming see-through or glass-like. And I just decided to reduce the alpha a little bit because I saw that, yeah, we were able to see through and it looked a lot like sci-fi glass with that alpha turned off a little bit. After that, I continued searching for where that 250 frames cache limit was, but I still couldn't find it and decided to just continue with the animation until I actually hit that problem. And then after that, we just went ahead and duplicated the dominoes and placed them accordingly so that we could have like an entire band of dominoes. and I knew that later on I just select the ones that need to be changed color to change colors to form some sort of word. And I thought of what word to do, and I just had to go ahead with my channel name of Dayan Studios. And we couldn't fit into the studios because that would have taken so much more time. So I just put Dayan for the sake of this particular test render, because I do plan on creating a tutorial later on if anybody is actually interested. So just wanted to test out whether this works. Another shortcut which is really handy that I used right after I finished getting the correct number of dominoes is Shift R, which allows you to repeat an action. So over here, as you see, I just duplicated them till I got about 10 dominoes, and I just selected the dominoes, duplicated them on the y-axis, and shifted it by the same unit, and then just hit Shift R, and it just duplicated all of them to create the necessary number of dominoes that I required. And there you go. And by now I already found where the cache limit was. It's in the scene data properties, and that's where I made the changes. So once that happened, I just selected out the dominoes to spell out the IN, and we also baked in the animation. So once you change the colors, we baked in the animation. That allows us to make changes here and there later on without having to reanimate the entire thing or re-simulate the entire physics of it. So once I actually selected out the letters of the IN, on the last piece that was selected, I went ahead and actually duplicated the material and changed it by a bit to make it stand out. And once I had that, since all of the others were selected, I just linked the materials to that, and there you can see that we have the iron, and when you actually play the animation, you can see the iron form. So you could have this animation be the entire animation if that is what you wanted. However, I knew that, okay, it's not just this animation that I wanted. I wanted the camera to actually move around and be more dynamic. So I went ahead and keyframed the camera in specific locations that I felt would be nice, so that it's like I'm following the ball around, or if not the ball, the actual falling of the dominoes. And once I keyframed them out in certain areas, I went ahead and moved to the graph editor. And in the graph editor, I went ahead and sampled all of the keyframes and then just smoothened the keyframes out by hitting Alt O, and I smoothed it out quite a bit. So that went on to like about 100 times. I smoothened it out. So you can go ahead and watch that. And then I just made a few minor tweaks here and there. And that was the end of the actual animation. Hopefully this video actually gives you an idea of the trial and error. As you can see, even after I placed the camera, I see that it wasn't going perfectly, so I had to make changes of here and there to make sure that the camera follows the way I want it to. And then I went ahead and finalized everything. Before that, I had to bake it so that I can actually watch what's happening in real time. So it's a lot of things that you learn here and there. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, which will hopefully be a tutorial for this. A single comment and I will make the tutorial. If I get absolutely zero comments, then maybe I'll still make the tutorial. I'm not sure, but let's see. I don't think anybody's actually watching till here, but let's see what happens in the future. So until next time, be sure to try things out and definitely stay creative.